Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Solve Ruled podcast. I am your host, Hannah Holden. And I hope you're having a fantastic start to your day or whenever you're listening to this. I'm feeling pretty good after a brutal workout this morning, but I feel so calm and grounded. It was just one of those workouts that kind of wiped me out, and I feel totally peaceful after that. I'm really excited to be back here for another week. I love having the chance to share some of these ideas that go through my mind, some of the things that I've either worked through in the past or just things I'm working through and learning through. So I love being able to share these with you. So thanks for being here. This week, I want to talk a little bit about how you can become your biggest fan. And there were a couple of inspirations for this episode. One of the inspirations was that I realized this year that this was something I needed to work on, specifically when it comes to my business. Because what I've learned and what I've realized is that a lot of the toughest work we do in private. Whatever it is, whether it's you're in the gym trying to get in shape, whether you're working on something at home, maybe it's a project, maybe you're working on a business, something like that. But a lot of times the things that require a lot of commitment and perseverance, we do a lot of that work in private, and it's not out there in the spotlight, visible with people cheering us on. A lot of times it's not. A lot of times we're by ourselves working through the challenges. So if any of you are listening and you're working on a project, whether that project is you, a business, your house, whatever it may be, a lot of times we're alone with it, and we're alone with our thoughts. We're alone with our struggles, and we have to be able to tap into a greater source of strength within ourselves. We can't be so reliant on, other people. It's good to have friends and family and people that you can vent to and listen to. But one thing I've learned as an entrepreneur is that it can be a lonely path, and working on ourselves in any capacity can be a lonely path. It can mean sometimes prioritizing ourselves in a way that we never have before. And a good source of strength for that is just learning to become our own biggest fan. I mentioned there was another inspiration. I was at the gym and I was listening to a song, came on Spotify the other day, and it was the song I Got Me by DSL. There's a couple lines in that song that I just almost laughed because she comes off so egotistical, but I love it because sometimes you just have to have a big ego. And not publicly, but in your own mind. You have to be able to pump yourself up. You have to be able to be your own biggest fan, be a little bit obnoxious with it in your own head. And she has this line, it's, you ain't gotta like me, I like me. You ain't gotta sign me, I sign me. And I felt like these lines, they so resonate with me, and they align with the concept behind being a self-ruled person, which is really taking your power back, claiming your power, and realizing that it's more about how you see yourself, whether or not you like yourself, more of that internal than it is external. Like I've said so many times on this podcast, I think a lot of times we're brought up to seek our power outside of ourselves, and unfortunately, a lot of people are really missing the powerhouse they're sitting on, which is in their internal world. So I love these lyrics. You ain't gotta like me, I like me. You ain't gotta sign me, I sign me. And when we don't like ourselves, that's when we are more dependent on approval from other people. That's when we are going to be constantly needing validation, gratification, all of that from other people. And so being able to be self-ruled, being able to source that within makes you very powerful, because you will become more immune to both the praise and the criticisms of others. And I think it might have been, I'm a Michael Bernard Beckwith fan. I think it might have been him, but I'm not 100% sure, who has made some comments before about you don't want to rely on either praise or criticism. Something to that effect. And it's stuck with me because I think that we're also taught just ignore the haters, don't pay attention to the critics, whatever. But it wasn't until I kind of got further along in my journey that I realized you kind of almost have to be equally immune to praise. Otherwise, you can kind of become like addicted to it. So if you're doing something and you're getting praised for it, then it feels hard to do that thing when the praise isn't there. And so this is about like building that inner strength, that inner resilience, that independence of emotional regulation where you can have that conviction of what you're doing regardless of the audience. Whether the audience is clapping for you, whether the audience is booing you, you know, because you have done that inner work to build so much inner trust with yourself that you know that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And let me tell you, this is a journey. I think that there are a lot of phases to this journey, but in my own journey, there were definitely times where I didn't trust myself. I wasn't sure. I wasn't confident in the direction that I was going in my life. But the more you work at this, the more you build a practice around not just becoming your biggest fan, but just building your relationship with yourself, you're going to have a lot more confidence. So I want to say that gaining approval from others will never be as important as how you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself internally will always be the limit to your progress externally. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the drama triangle. There's different variations of this, but I think one of the common versions is something to the effect of there's a tendency we have to be the hero, play the villain, or play the victim. And so a lot of times in different situations, we will lean into one or the other. And I bring this up because a lot of times I think a lot of us, we play the victim. We play the victim to our external circumstances, and we think that other people are in control of our life. Other people are the limit to our, progress, or there's a ceiling that they're putting over us. And while there might be some instances of that, I don't really like to go into that because there's a lot you can do to stretch your ceiling in the external world by working internally. And so, like I said, a lot of times we play the victim because we sometimes don't want to take that radical responsibility for our life. We don't want to acknowledge that we have the power to change things. And so it's just easier to put that blame outside of ourselves, kind of point the finger, oh, that boss didn't promote me, that, partner didn't respect me. And it's like, those things may be true, but where is your power in the situation? Where is your role? And so I'll say it again, how you feel about yourself internally will always be the limit to your progress externally. So if you are coming up against obstacle in your external world, I think we're often just trying to like beat against that obstacle, when in reality, if we went internal and did some work there, we might clear that obstacle from our path, or we might be like, what the heck am I even doing on this path in the first place? So getting centered and going within, you will be able to move mountains in your external reality. So today I have 5 kind of ways or mindsets about how you can become your biggest fan. So the first one is to like yourself. And wow, I think that this is something that a lot of people wouldn't admit, that maybe they don't like themselves, or maybe they didn't like themselves, or they're struggling to like themselves. And like yourself, love yourself. There's probably some nuance between the two, but it's really just about how you feel about yourself. Do you like yourself? Do you like who you are? Do you like the way that you're living your life? Do you, what are the emotions, the thoughts and emotions you have about yourself? These are so impactful. People don't realize that when you have goals in life and you want to achieve things, that this is where it starts. It starts with your feelings towards yourself, not other people's feelings towards you. So if you want to like yourself more, you have to be able to observe greatness in yourself. I think a lot of times we are our own toughest critic. We point out our negative qualities. We observe our deficits. We look for what's wrong with us. And if you are always doing that, you're never going to be strong enough to change your life. you're not going to have the capacity. But a lot of these are simple reframes that then you just practice over and over and over again. I feel like I like myself and I feel better about myself every year that I get older, the more that I learn to observe my good qualities, observe my moments of greatness, the more that I shine the light on the good things about myself more than my perceived weaknesses. Something else you can do to like yourself more, have more positive feelings about yourself, is to start asking empowering questions of yourself. A lot of times we ask ourselves negative questions. We ask ourselves things like, what's wrong with me? Why am I stuck here? We ask these negative questions and they are dead end thinking. It's dead end thinking, dead end questions. But when we start to ask more empowering questions like, what's good about me? What's going well in my life? What is this trying to teach me? Positive questions, then we begin to totally change the data that we have access to about ourselves, which puts us in a much better place mentally and emotionally, and we can build on that momentum. So this is a practice. We have so many thoughts every day. Sometimes we'll have some negative thoughts about ourselves, but it's up to us whether or not we latch on to those, or if we notice the negative thought, are we willing to kind of shush that and come up with a different thought, come up with a different idea. So also, to like yourself, celebrate wins. When you have a win, whatever it is, celebrate it. And just celebrate yourself. You don't always only have to celebrate the wins in life, but also celebrating yourself. I think about, there have been so many birthdays in my life where I didn't even celebrate myself. And not to the degree that I feel like I should have, or I didn't really make plans. And so whether it be, your birthday or, accomplishments, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just find small ways to celebrate yourself. I think I've bought myself a Christmas present like the last few years. So it could be about buying yourself gifts, taking yourself out on your birthday, whatever, finding ways to celebrate yourself. So the next one I want to talk about is to value yourself. That is another way that you can become your biggest fan, is to actually value yourself. And I can come back to that line from the song, you ain't got to like me, I like me. But even with your value, you don't have to value me, I value me. And this is how you take your power back, because the reality is not everyone is going to see your value in this world. But if you can't see your own value, people are just going to be reflecting that belief back to you. If people are not seeing your value right now, instead of trying to prove your value to them, which is what a lot of people do, I'll prove to you that I have value. I'll show you my value. People do this in their careers. They do it in relationships, all sorts of places. Instead of trying to prove to other people that you have value or show it to them, which will actually hurt your self-esteem, you instead want to focus on seeing that value in yourself. And the first step to that is deciding that you have inherent value, meaning that your value is not based on what you produce. Your value is not about how productive you are, what kind of fancy job you have, what you do for your partner, anything like that. It's about accepting that you hold value that just is. It's not based on some requirement that you do for other people or produce for other people. That's the foundation of valuing yourself. And another piece of value is to uncover your values and then align with them. A lot of people are not aware, not self-aware enough, or have just never thought about what their values really are. And they may be living their life in a way that doesn't align with their true values. I know I've talked about values on the podcast before. It's a pretty big thing, because when we are not living in alignment with our values, there's usually some tension that we feel, and we might not be able to put our finger on it, but it's usually there, even if it's something that's subconscious. So uncovering and aligning with your values will help you feel more valuable. Another thing is, think about it this way. realize that you create value because you are walking value when you are tuned into your true self. So what I mean by this is, if you believe that you're inherently valuable, then you can also hold the belief that you are value. So wherever you go, you will create value, as long as you're being true to yourself. So the more you build this sense of value within, the more other people are going to see it. I hear this stuff a lot online about, being high value. And it's just, being high value is more about your values and your character than it is about how you look or how much money you make. And it's about how you see yourself. All right. So the next one is to trust yourself to become your biggest fan. You have to be able to trust yourself. So you don't have to trust me. I trust me. Building trust with yourself is about having your own back through the good and the bad. And it sounds funny, but it's like, when you think about someone that you trust in your life, you think about a family member or a friend, your partner, someone that you really trust. Probably one of the reasons that you trust them is because they've had your back. They've shown you through thick and thin that they're not going to abandon you when times get tough. So trust with yourself is no different. Are you someone that has your own back? Do you act in alignment with your values? Do you act in alignment with your own needs, your own interest? Or do you do things that undermine that? Do you act against yourself? Do you act against your own best interests? Do you do that to please other people? Do you do that out of fear? So trusting yourself, it takes time. This is not something that happens overnight. It's something we're always working on, building trust with ourselves. And when you notice that you're acting against your own best interest, you can just notice it. You don't have to beat yourself up. And you can simply reset and just set the intention to do it differently next time. All right, so the next one is to honor yourself. You don't have to honor me, I honor me. So again, we're taking that power back. And there are a lot of different ways to honor yourself. This would be different for everybody. Maybe it's how you honor your body, how you honor your emotions, how you honor your space, your privacy, maybe your boundaries, how you honor your own needs. I don't know who might be listening, but sometimes, not all of us, but sometimes we minimize our own needs for other people, and we're not honoring what we really need to thrive. We're not putting ourselves at the center of our own life. We're putting other people. We're centering other people, other things. And so sometimes honoring yourself is about realizing that you have to put yourself first. You have to pay yourself first, put yourself at the center. And maybe this is just looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning and saying, what do you need today? I heard this somewhere. I can't remember where, but it stuck with me. What do you need today? Because it's not going to be the same every day. We have different needs at different times, but are you willing to actually prioritize your needs, or do you have a tendency to silence yourself? All right, last one here. To become your biggest fan is to forgive yourself. You don't have to forgive me. I forgive me. And here, let's just be real. The reality is that we have all made mistakes. We have all made mistakes. I mentioned that drama triangle earlier. We have all been the villain in someone's story. Sometimes we're the villain. Sometimes we're the hero. Sometimes we're the victim. But we've all been the villain in someone's story. We've all made mistakes. We've all acted in ways that don't reflect our best self. We've all been there. And sometimes we don't get closure. Sometimes we don't get closure when people hurt and mistreat us. And sometimes we don't get closure when we're the one that did wrong. And maybe people don't want to hear it, or, it's too late or whatever. But the way that you can be your biggest fan here is to take your power back and choose to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for maybe the ways you've acted towards others that don't feel right, but also forgive yourself for all of the times when you haven't listened to yourself, you haven't trusted yourself, maybe you didn't like yourself, just forgive yourself for all of those times. The more that you can practice this self-love and forgiveness, the more you'll be able to see yourself in a positive light and have more positive feelings about yourself. And that is truly key to becoming your best version, is to be able to take that power back. So that's what I've got for this week. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.